Creating layouts can be in totally different ways. You can have headers and navs that sit next to each other. You can have an article and an A side that sit next to each other. Really, there's so many options. Maybe you want to do like 3 columns all across. When you create a layout, you're really just taking the boxes or the semantic elements, the boxes that have meaning, and you're arranging them on the screen so that they look a certain way. Please remember that as we're doing this, most of the time the boxes are either like a very solid color and there's only 1 or 2 that have a background, or they're invisible, right? They're just a semantic element like an article that's holding a whole section of information together, and we can't see the box, but it exists because it's holding it together. So what we're going to do is talk about how we can put boxes side by side, because so far all we've done is we've taken the boxes or the semantic elements of like a header, a nav, an article, and a footer, and we've stacked them on top of each other. But now, what if we want one next to the other? How can we start doing that? So we're going to do that in CodePen. So go to CodePen and create a new pen, and we're going to go ahead and talk about what's called floating. So up at the top, I'm going to rename my pen to be floating layout. Practice. Okay. And then if you can, also at the beginning of it, put your last name and then floating layout practice, because you are going to submit this to me later and it's easier if your name's at the front of it. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and collapse my JavaScript because I don't really need that section, and have just my HTML, my CSS. And what we're going to do here is we're going to create essentially this layout. So we're going to have a header up at the top, then a nav. They're going to be stacked on top of each other. Then we're going to have an A side and an article sitting side by side. And then down at the bottom here, it's kind of covered up, but you're going to have a footer as well. So we're going to go ahead and create that as our task here when we're creating this website layout. And so first what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and bring in the elements. So I'm going to suggest that we make all the different semantic elements first, and then we come in and we adjust how they look. So I'm going to create a header here, and I'm going to put the word header inside of it, and remember to close the header before you move forward. Okay, so definitely want to open the header and then close it using that /. Then I'm going to create the nav next because it's the next thing on the page. And remember that we read top to bottom, left to right. Same way a computer reads, they read top to bottom, left to right. Then looking at this, we're going to go ahead and have 2 elements side by side. The question is, which element is going to come first in the code if we read top to bottom and then left to right? So in here, what I'm going to go ahead and do is show you this one more time. So just give me 1 second as it loads, because of course I moved out of it and then it was loading. So we are thinking about what's going to be on the left of the screen and what's going to be on the right. So if we read top to bottom, left to right, we go header, then nav. What comes next? The A side, and then the article. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and code in the A side, which is a new semantic element we have not used before, but essentially it's to the side of the article, right? Usually. Do you have to put it to the side of the article? No, it can be the side of anything, right? It could be the side of the header, side of the nav, doesn't matter. But usually when we're talking about an A side, because of its name and its meaning, article and A side usually go side by side together because it's the article side and the article, right? If you're using them for the meaning that they have. And then we're going to go ahead and put in the article here. And remember to spell article correctly. This is where most people make a mistake, is that they put usually the E before the L. When they are spelling article, you have to spell it correctly as you're putting it in here. And then the last thing down at the bottom of the page is going to be the footer. So we're going to go ahead and put the footer in here. And at this point, we are going to save this, and you are going to also submit this URL. So I'm going to save this bad boy, and then remember to go copy this URL up here and paste it into your assignment for moving forward.